And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast. My name is Shawn, coming to you from London, Ontario, Canada. This is actually episode number 3 of us doing it video-wise, but episode number 116 if you've been following us all along from the beginning of time. And so, yeah, I'm just checking if we're live actually on Facebook. It's coming up in just a moment. That's how the delay is. But you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and right now on Twitch. We are live, and then it's going to be in audio form, whether you're listening on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcast from, it's going to be up there. Tonight, we are going to run down some Ontario news, results from NXT Takeover, results from SummerSlam, and even AEW. And we'll see what's going on with that. And we are going to talk about some of the news, a little bit of updates. But first, I'm going to bring in, from Niagara Falls, Chris Jones. How are you?
I'm here minus the barrel.
Oh, yes, not going over the falls. Sorry, just slow on the uptake on that one. I'm just.
Do you expect premium jokes?
Not from you. No, unfortunately not. So, yeah, we are live. For whatever reason, it's not showing up on Facebook, at least on the Scumbags Wrestling page. It doesn't look like, but people will get us anyways. Not sure if you can check on that on your end, Chris, where things are.
Sure.
If we are visible.
I will check while you do the talking.
Yeah. So we're going to start off, as always, with the Ontario news. There is a little bit of stuff going on. Not too much. A few events here and there. Right now on YouTube also, at 7 o'clock this evening was the last episode of Backyard Pro. And so they finished actually episode 5, which was episode 3 of season 2. Hopefully we found a winner between Psychotic Mike and The Rock. And yeah, so hopefully you guys can share any thoughts on that. But other events coming up also include C4 in Ottawa, November 1st. That's a little ways away. And this Saturday, Alpha One in Oshawa is going to have Escape Your Basement live at 2 p.m. They're restricting to 100 fans, so I'm guessing it's outside event. And so tickets are probably gone really quickly for that one. People are desperate and wanting to get back to wrestling shows, rightfully so. And they're going to be also, though, live on Twitch at 2 p.m. on the 29th. Some of the matches you're going to see include Ethan Page taking on Kobe Durst, Mark Wheeler's defending the championship against Josh Alexander, Space Pirates are taking on Fireflight for number 1 contendership for the tag team titles, and there's also going to be a No Limits or hardcore elimination match featuring Jody Threat, Steve Brown defending the title, Holden Albright, and BMD. So that's coming up on Saturday, the 29th. And then No Ring North also premiered or did some filming this past weekend. They're looking for some funding to end up releasing it. Definitely go check it out. You will end up seeing Shiloh going against Kyle Boone and a bunch of other talent from No Ring North. Destiny Wrestling is going to be in Mississauga on September 13th for The Clash. It was scheduled to be the last show at Battle Arts Academy. I had that as a note here at the time. Speedball Mike Bailey taking on the Walking Weapon Josh Alexander. And that all changed the other day when I saw a note from Anthony Corelli. Anthony Corelli, as we know, is Santino Marella. He is one of the members of the Aftermath crew on Sportsnet. And up until a couple weeks ago, he was set to move over to the Tobermory area that way and give up everything with Battle Arts. Well, apparently people believed in it and are stepping up to take over Battle Arts. So he issued a statement yesterday and said, so in case you haven't heard, the world works in mysterious ways. Shortly after I announced that I was walking away from Battle Arts, I started to receive calls and offers with regards to buying it. People saw the value in what I created and wanted to keep it alive. That felt pretty good, but also kind of sad because I already committed to the next chapter. The outpour of love was incredible too, with so many people sharing what the gym means to them. I know many people were disappointed, but also happy for us at the same time. Battle Arts had become a staple in the community and in so many lives. So the question now is who would be deserving of taking hold of the reins? That person would have to put their heart and soul into Battle Arts the same way I did. They would have to adhere to a strong moral code like I did. One group of two gentlemen stood out from the rest. They were interested in keeping all the programs and coaches, and they invited me to stay on as a partner. I would be removed from running the day-to-day operations, however, would stay on as one of the professional wrestling coaches. It was essential that they had the right balance of business experience, business instincts, energy and passion, and the love and belief in what we are. I'm proud to announce that Battle Arts Academy will remain open in what I believe be a seamless transition. Not only will it continue, but also it will flourish greater than ever before. I would like to thank and introduce Dave Sciarra, I'm probably butchering his name, I apologize, and Adam Coca of HWE, Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment, as the new partners of Battle Arts Academy. I've gotten to know them, and they check all the boxes, both as businessmen and, more importantly, as people. It's not easy to find people that are passionate about everything we do. Martial arts, pro wrestling, fitness, but they are. I know the Battle Arts family will welcome them with open arms and be grateful for the continuation of their beloved Battle Arts Academy. The dream lives on. Stay tuned for more amazing news. So what was supposed to be their last event on September 13th and probably preparing for a big farewell celebration with Destiny is now not going to happen because it's going to continue on. Chris, your thoughts on the fact that somebody stepped up and wants to keep Anthony Corelli's dream alive?
That's nothing but good. Good for the community, good for the original owner. As long as, you hope the transition goes well. And I mean, what a better way to get a great school to stay in your community than finding someone like, I don't know, did they approach him? Was he looking, or because I imagine he was looking maybe at the beginning, but
yeah, probably at the beginning might have been, and then with everything falling into his lap, as we read on a couple of weeks ago when he issued the statement that they were going to be folding and he was moving, he had resigned himself to the fact that it was done, and I guess making it public had people realize that it's a needed thing, because without it, even Josh Alexander had closed down his school since he's part of Impact Wrestling. He really only had Tyson Dukes in the Wrestle Factory plus Crossbody over in the Kitchener area. So having a facility like Battle Arts continue in the GTA in Mississauga is definitely a good thing. And I know I've seen a couple of the students at Midwestern Wrestling, and so they are definitely being trained really well there. Speaking of Tyson Dukes, Hammerlock Podcast by Tyson Dukes is available. There's at least 3 episodes out right now. This latest one is involving Ric Flair taking on Rick Martel in Japan. And basically, if you're looking to get into wrestling, Tyson Dukes, especially in this area of London, you want to go check him out. I've been there a bunch of times. People know the production line on YouTube. A lot of talent have been around Ontario, especially Smash Wrestling, and he just keeps on pumping out really good talent. But these podcasts that he's putting out also are now part of homework in a way that you see the fundamentals of wrestling and his desire to bring back some of the old school. He just recently got a new ring. It's lower to the ground, so they can do a little more high flying attempts in the factory as opposed to the regular ring, because there just wasn't any height room for it. But I see Tyson loving more the ground and pound, the fundamentals, chain wrestling that is almost a lost art now in exchange for the flippy stuff. It's a shame that it's that way. And yeah, I'm happy that he's able to do so. So checking out his podcast, you get to hear his opinion, get into his mindset and what wrestling was and really should be, just to give it something different than what people have been sensitized to, I think. Your thoughts?
I've seen some of his YouTube videos where he and his son, but I can't remember his actual name. That he'd show some moves and wrist locks and stuff like that. And I know he was mentioned before that, you got to make it look real. Not just a lazy, I can put anyone in a wrist lock, but it may not look like a real wrist lock because I don't know how to do it properly. And a lot of people that go out to wrestle, you got to make it look real. And that's what I see. One of his messages is you have to still wrestle. It's not just go out there and perform the moves, it's do the moves and make sure you're doing them correctly. Or exactly. A lot of people are not gonna buy it. Like I know one move, I see John Cena when he does his main move, which I can't remember right now, the one to make the guy tap.
Yeah, the STF.
Yeah, he puts that on so sloppily. Like it does not look like it's actually hurting the guy. And you watch a lot of wrestling, you see a lot of that, and he's teaching his wrestlers that it's got to be real.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of notifications right at the moment. I wish that would stop. I'm sorry for anybody hearing that. I'm also checking over on YouTube.
Something about Price is Right, man.
I know, YouTube and Facebook right now, and nothing seems to be appearing. I apologize for anybody who was expecting that. So apparently we're having some technical difficulties in this regard. But yeah, and my computer keeps on going off. It's so much fun. It's a wonderful episode. I will have this up on Facebook and YouTube as soon as this episode is done and people can catch up. Plus, as well, you can hear it on audio, whether you're in your car or taking a walk. Definitely thank you for your support, and we'll just mosey on through.
So is your pizza outside? Is that what all those things were?
No, there was a lot of notifications that happened throughout the day that I acknowledged on my phone that are only acknowledging now on my Chromebook. So we're going to head into news. Last week we talked about that Sonya Deville had been basically terrorized and stalked by a guy I'm really not going to name anymore because that's where people get the fame from, and I'm not going to acknowledge that anymore. I said his name last week if you want, and you can also check out different websites to get that dirt if you really want it. But Sonya Deville, stalker, he was denied bail earlier this week. And just before SmackDown, maybe it's been Thursday or Friday, something like that, she ended up having to appear in court. And there was testimony with the text messages he sent her. They even had video footage of her security system, and the guy made it actually inside. She'd seen him on her deck and quickly shut the door and got away. And next thing you know, he's inside. It's finding out also he had sent messages to her girlfriend or ex-girlfriend now, plus as well to Mandy Rose. And basically he wanted to eliminate everybody in his way of getting to Sonya. And the guy is just messed up. So that was shocking in itself. I thought it was commendable of both ladies that they made it to SmackDown to continue their story. They took out the stipulation of the hair versus hair. I think it was, I've heard it was on the request of her lawyer because you don't want a different appearance of, in this case, she would have been losing the hair versus hair and been bald. And that also changes things potentially in the view of courts. So they had to protect that and cover it up, and did a loser leaves.
Couldn't they just do the eyebrows? They could just pencil them in, shave eyebrows. Why haven't they done shave the eyebrows match yet in women's wrestling? They do the hair. The eyebrows are the most important.
True, but you don't want to change her appearance too much. So she ended up changing it to a loser leaves. They did the match. Part of it was, I'll say, it was a little bit sloppy because of the circumstances, I'm going to say. But it made it a little bit hard to believe that these two women hated each other when in the news they were both terrorized in her house. So I don't know if I would have found some other way of dropping the story. Just say Sonya couldn't make it or whatever, and move forward that way, and then pick it up when she's able to return. But I commend both ladies for sucking it up as much as they could and going out and performing. I guess the show must go on. And so we'll see when Sonya does return. Your thoughts on any of that, Chris?
No. I mean, little thoughts, but nothing important. Nope.
Okay. So then this Friday was also the debut of the Thunderdome for SmackDown, Raw, everything now that's going to be done except for NXT, because they're still going to be at Full Sail and doing the status quo that we've seen with plexiglass and the audience consisting of students. But so they're going to have the two different looks between the two shows. So Thunderdome started. We got 1,000 screens with fans on them. I'll get to the mess ups in just a moment as the week has progressed, unfortunately. But they got to do that. Jeff Hardy ended up beating AJ Styles to be the new Intercontinental Champion. That's probably going to continue, maybe even to Payback this weekend. I feel it was more of a hot shot move to, hey, we got fans, now let's give them a title change. Maybe not necessary, because AJ Styles should have been still champion. Also during the kickoff show for SummerSlam, Renee Young confirmed that she is departing from WWE, and that's after 8 years of being with the company. She's married to Jon Moxley, but it's questionable whether she's going to go to AEW or she's actually got herself a bigger job at ESPN or Fox, because she's probably one of the best commentators that they ever had, at least backstage people. She got thrown in deep water with Raw, but it is what it is. But she was a great personality from Canada, started on Sportsnet with Aftermath and Jimmy Corderas and everybody. But she's got a new cookbook coming out, and she issued a thank you. She issued a thank you letter, and it was really long but really thorough and thought filled as well. Worth a read if you get a chance to find it. And then yesterday on The Bump, she was on there and brought to tears with all the different thank you, Renee, and wishing her well sentiments that were broadcast. Did you catch much of Renee Young? I know you didn't really. You're not really watching the current product as opposed to some of the older stuff.
No, I thought she was fine. I seen her like kick off WrestleMania, and I seen a lot more of her when she first started. Not so much the last couple of years, but I mean, she was good, and yeah, I can't imagine unless it's for personal reasons. I can't imagine her leaving WWE just to go work for AEW. I think it gives her more time to perhaps do that a little bit, but I would expect she's going to go like the Fox or somewhere else.
Yeah, I would expect that too. I think her best role was doing Talking Smack. Who would have ever thought Renee Paquette would have ended up marrying a guy like John Moxley? But obviously, different guy behind the scenes, and all the best for them moving forward. He's currently the AEW champion, and yeah, she has a whole lot of potential ahead of her. So all the best to Renee Young as she moves forward. Then other news, I'm almost through the news, is the fact that NXT UK will resume recordings on the September 17th from the BT Sports Studio in London, England. The US crew will help record the shows remotely from the US. And then NXT UK is still expecting to do a takeover in Dublin on October 25th. So maybe that's why Imperium ended up dropping the titles to Breezango yesterday on NXT because they're able to go back and work the UK scene. The Suicide Squad released a first look trailer for their second movie, and it featured John Cena as the Peacemaker. I guess the character is kind of a loose cannon where trying to do good, but also it can be violent. So he's doing that. Dwayne Johnson is doing Black Adam. And so more Marvel movies coming up, or in Cena's case, it's DC.
Got no interest in that sequel.
More superhero movies coming our way, featuring wrestlers.
The first Suicide Squad was so terrible.
Yeah, I didn't bother watching it.
It looks good. That's about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, DC seems to have a problem converting from comics to big screen, unlike the success Marvel has been able to have with their own brands, but also now related to Disney and their epic battles that, however many movies it is that piece together to form this big saga. After SummerSlam happened, the WWE Network aired 24 special featuring this year's WrestleMania production. So it takes you all the way from everybody getting ready and going to go to Tampa and the big announcement that it's going to be in Tampa to, we're 14 days away from WrestleMania and we need to change everything and load everything into the PC. And you hear different wrestlers' perspectives on that because at one point, Kevin Owens was looking to jump off a big pirate ship that was in the Buccaneers Stadium in Tampa, but that got thrown out the window. And then he saw the big WrestleMania sign and thought, okay, I'll still jump off that. Rhea Ripley was there, and she was expecting a big thing for her debut. She still had a big moment going against Charlotte, but not as big because it wasn't in front of that audience. Drew McIntyre and his thoughts of finally getting to the top of the mountain in front of nobody. So you see their roller coaster of emotions and how they made it through there. It's a really good documentary to watch if you get a chance to see that I'm not sure if it's available on the free stream of WWE Network or if that's on the side of things where you actually have to pay for it. But if you get a chance, I would go out of my way and watch it. What do you think of the fact that they had to go from the big stadium all the way to just the PC?
My only thing in that is, yes, you're calling it WrestleMania, but it wasn't a WrestleMania. When big things like that happen, most places like fairs and that, because of wars or whatever, and pandemics now, cancel because they know they can't put on the quality show that everyone expects. I mean, I think WWF still delivered well, but it's not a WrestleMania. It's an asterisk WrestleMania.
Understandable.
Yeah.
And you see at the beginning with Triple H basically doing the whole McMahon sentiment that the show must go on and still wanting to put smiles on people's faces. It is needed, I guess, in their mind of doing that. It harkens back also to 9/11 when everything shut down in the world after the Twin Towers got attacked. And they were actually the first people who said, no, we're not going to hide. We're going to go out. And 2 days later, they were in Dallas still. And they found a way of going live, putting on a show. And they didn't really concentrate on storylines, but they wanted to entertain. And I think that's their same mentality, even with COVID, is they want to give people an escape and do that. And that's why it continued the way it did.
The only place I know that had an event before they did at 9/11 was the annual Western Fair. Stompin' Tom Connors played, and I honestly can't remember if it was that night or the next night. I'd have to see what the actual date was because he was supposed to play on a Monday, and that's when he played. Because I remember, because the one that canceled for the Wednesday night was Terry Clark.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so London actually had the first concert after 9/11 happened.
Yep. Well, anything's possible. I think that's why they didn't decide to cancel WrestleMania and tried to go forward as much as they have from the March 13th when they were supposed to be in Detroit. I had almost had tickets that night to go, but then clearly that wasn't going to happen. Final piece of news is that Stu Bennett returned to WWE as Wade Barrett last night and to do commentary for NXT. Barrett was the first winner of NXT when it was the competition. He was the leader of the Nexus and did a bunch of things. Kind of got stopped, really, when Cena refused to job out to the Nexus at SummerSlam that same year. And it really stopped the momentum of Nexus. He became king of the ring and stuff like that, an Intercontinental Champion. But eventually did end up leaving and joining Hollywood and doing some acting. But as of recent, he had been doing commentary for the NWA. NWA, though, lately has been losing a lot of their talent. This is the first one to the WWE that they've lost. A lot of them have headed over to AEW. But yeah, we'll have to see what the status of NWA is going to be, even though they did create a partnership with another group to do some broadcasting. That is yet to materialize. So Billy Corgan, he needs to figure out what's going on before he loses all of his talent. So we'll finish off with WWE news before we dive into AEW. AEW Dynamite is actually happening right now on a special Thursday show, thanks to the NBA being bumped, but then didn't need to because Dynamite could have happened last night with no NBA after all the Black Lives Matter and boycotting of basketball games and all sports as of today. because even the NHL has shut down. There's talk that the NBA might want to fully shut down instead of resume basketball, but that's going on over there. I'm going to finish up with everything in WWE. NXT 30 Takeover 30 happened on Saturday against AEW at the same time. Breezango ended up becoming the number one contenders for the tag team titles, winning in a three-way match. Finn Balor beat Timothy Thatcher in a match that is, once again, like Tyson Duke's fundamentals. It probably threw a lot of people off of not being flippy, but it was a really good match. Finn Balor won. I thought Thatcher needed the win more than Balor, but when you hear what's going to happen coming up, it was a good choice. Damian Priest ended up winning a 5-way ladder match to become the new NXT North American champion. Adam Cole beat Pat McAfee, a football player, a punter, formerly. And actually, McAfee put on a really good job that people are wondering if he's going to continue with wrestling, if they can spring it. Io Shirai retained her women's title over Dakota Kai, but then Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez ended up facing off before Kai took her friend Gonzalez away. And the main event saw Karrion Kross beat Keith Lee to become the new NXT champion. Now, kind of confusing here because they announced during SummerSlam that Keith Lee was going to Raw, so that explains why he dropped the title. But during that match, Karrion Kross ended up separating his shoulder, and we found out yesterday that it's so severe that he has to drop the title. And him and Scarlett did a little presentation, left the belt in the middle of the ring, and left. But he did a really good promo saying that bumps in the road are your only issues. He's going to be a bump in the road for somebody when he gets back. So then yesterday, that happened. Breezango ended up winning the tag team titles against over Imperium. Tommaso Ciampa is back, and he's now a heel. Austin Theory went back to NXT. I guess he couldn't cut it on Raw, or somebody didn't like him enough to keep him there after his suspension. But the biggest news also came when William Regal made the announcement that the championship will be decided next Tuesday on a special NXT, because hockey, if it's still happening, is supposed to be bumping NXT on Wednesday. So it's going to be on Tuesday for Super Tuesday. And they're doing an hour-long fatal four-way match with former champions being Finn Balor, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, and the longest reigning champion, Adam Cole. So 1 hour, 4 guys, Iron Man match. I don't know who's going to come out on top of that one. What do you think about this concept of 4 for an hour?
If you got the right people, it can be done. I mean, we lived through the Ric Flair hour matches and a lot of other guys that did matches very long. So, and when you got 4 guys, but for me, I wouldn't abuse it. I wouldn't do it very often, because some of those matches can be, as a fan, I don't want to sit and watch the same match for an hour. I don't. You can suck me in for a while, but after a while, it gets to be unbelievable that they can go for an hour and take those type of hits. That's when you start to, you're showing that wrestling is not, they're not hitting each other with everything they can. And that's one thing that I think hurts wrestling is you don't announce, like, having an hour match, especially with 4 people. It just becomes, nobody can go an hour match like that and actually take those hits to the head and everything realistically and get up for the whole hour. it's not possible. And when they do these hour matches, when it was years ago with, say, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, they were doing some big moves, but not like now where it's big move after big move after big move, and they still keep getting up. Well, you do that for an hour, it gets to be ridiculous.
Yeah, because
so
Shawn and Brett at least used some rest holds and then
Yeah,
fired up
yeah.
and then rest holds. Now you got four guys who are going to, there's going to be constant action. I hope there's more than one referee just to make it logical about what's going on. And I would have at least two out there, one to control and count anything that's happening inside the ring, and one for outside the ring, because you know that's going to happen. And especially if it's a false count anywhere situation. But there's going to be multiple falls during that match, and we'll see who comes out on top. Sunday was SummerSlam, and we got a 1 week turnaround for Payback happening this Sunday. So running down the SummerSlam card, Apollo Crews ended up retaining the U.S. title by beating MVP, and he narrowly escaped Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin as they came out after the match. Bayley retained her women's title, SmackDown Women's title over Asuka, thanks to Sasha taking a hit. The Street Profits retained their titles over Andrade and Angel Garza. The poisoning of Montez Ford didn't matter. They're still hinting that it was Zelina Vega who did the poisoning, but she says it wasn't her, so who knows if that's going to get swerved somewhere else and find out it was a different person. But then they still tease some animosity between Garza and Andrade. I figured it was time for them to get the titles and let the Street Profits be chasing. Later on, next up, we saw Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I said about how that ended up going. Very impressed by the fact that everything got put on the shelf so they could do that match. Mandy did wrestle with a table, trying to put it up, but it is what it is. So Sonya's gone. Seth Rollins took Dominic Mysterio out, but it was a 23-ish minute match that had a lot of logic to it. It told a story. There were some smoke and mirrors in there, and doing the drama with Dominic's mother being there, Angie, Ray's wife, and Ray promising he wasn't getting involved until it was absolutely necessary. He finally did jump in. The handcuffing of Rey Mysterio and seeing his son stomped in the back of the head by Seth and having to witness it right there that close. That was huge drama. I was surprised Monday they did the tag team match. I would have done it on Payback this weekend. So I don't know if that's going to get added because Retribution ended up stopping that match. So there wasn't a winner. They could really do it on Sunday. Asuka ended up beating Sasha for the Raw Women's title. They did some back and forth with the submissions. The key thing that people put out, the commentators did, was that Bayley, even though they set up the same scenario of how Sasha took the bump and Bayley rolled up Asuka, they tried to do that again in the same format with this match, but Bayley didn't take the bump. So she didn't sacrifice herself for Sasha, and Sasha ended up tapping out. And these two are now defending on Sunday. There could be some animosity going on. They've been teasing a breakup for the longest time. Drew McIntyre beat Randy Orton. They both missed their finishes, and then it was a backslide that got the victory. So it's definitely not a normal way of ending a championship match. Some people were upset about it. But then the next night, Randy Orton punted Drew in the head 3 times, and Drew now apparently has a fractured skull and bleeding on the brain, so he's not going to be around for a bit, even though he's the champion. Keith Lee is going to go against Randy Orton on Sunday. And, of course, the finisher of the night saw The Fiend defeat Braun Strowman to become the new Universal Champion. And no sooner than that happened, Roman Reigns came out and beat them both up. Said that he made Braun Strowman the monster he is, and Bray couldn't handle the pressure of leading a company, and he's only holding it for the belt for Roman while he came back. So that's now going to be a 3-way match this Sunday at Payback. So 4 matches: Apollo and Lashley for the U.S. title. Sasha and Bayley are going to take on Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. And then, of course, as I said, the matches of The Fiend, Braun, and Roman, plus Keith Lee taking on Randy Orton. They only have one more day to come up with a full card, since it's happening on Sunday on the WWE Network. So I know you didn't end up seeing SummerSlam. I'm not sure if you caught any clips or stuff, but your thoughts on what happened this past weekend?
That's why I love wrestling. The fact that the next night on Raw, that there's all these safety protocols for COVID, and the reason why there's not fans there, but Randy Orton can kick a guy in the head 3 times. That's okay. Nobody stops that.
And we know about concussions.
Exactly. Good old wrestling.
So I don't know what's going to go on with Drew, if he's actually injured and that's how they're writing him out for a bit, or what their plan is. Hopefully we find out soon. But he's definitely not going to be on the card unless he magically gets healed.
He'd probably make a run in then.
And
he'd probably make it like a mid match run in or something.
But then at the same time, you look at it, and it took Randy Orton 3 punts to put Drew down like that. But it only took 1 punt to take out Edge and Big Show and Christian. A low blow and a boot to the head for Ric Flair. 1 boot to Shawn Michaels, but he didn't get put down. And yeah,
don't you be making sense, man.
I know. It's just, where do we draw the line? Oh, because you're a legend, you can get taken out with 1 shot, but because you're the current champ, it takes 3. And this part is where I'm missing Steven. Steven was supposed to join us, and we know how much he loves AEW, but he's got a migraine and is not with us this evening. Just running down, Dynamite was on this past Saturday because of NBA playoffs, bumping them, and they're also on right now on TNT or TSN, depending on where you're watching from. But last Saturday, some of the highlights: FTR gave Private Party probably their best match ever by actually wrestling and following tag team rules. And they also had Tully Blanchard in their corner, which really wasn't explained after everything went down, because Arn Anderson helped them sign their contracts. But after, I guess, Ricky Morton went after Tully during the appreciation, they defended Tully, and now Tully's their manager, but he's also associated with Sean Spears. So I don't know if all 3 of them are going to be associated together with Tully as their manager. We'll have to wait and see. MJF now has a lawyer, and he's trying to basically resurrect what they did with Jake Roberts years ago and ban the paradigm shift DDT from that match that they're supposed to have for the championship at All Out. There was a cluster match with Dustin Rhodes, QT Marshall, Jurassic Express taking on Butcher and Blade and Lucha Brothers. They just can't stop doing cluster matches, and it just looks sloppy and really bad. Jungle Boy ended up missing a couple of moves blatantly. It looked just a mess. The heels started feuding with each other, but Eddie Kingston came out and got them all on the same page. So now they're a faction of 5. The AEW has tons of factions as well. It's just crazy. Tony Schiavone had an interview with Orange Cassidy, which Orange Cassidy continued to say nothing, Jericho came out and challenged them to a rubber match since they both have a win each over each other. And at All Out, it was agreed upon that they're going to have a Mimosa Mayhem match. And that's either going to end in submission or pinfall. Or if you throw your opponent into a big honking mimosa, which is 80 gallons of orange juice and 50 cases of the bubbly champagne. In a way that Jericho might pick up the victory, still giving Cassidy a little bit of a rub to make him look good. But it's Chris Jericho. He's going to have to pick up the victory. But then in the end, he's going to look like a moron and get put into the mimosa at the end. So we'll have to see if that plays out at All Out on September 5th. There was a really bad match also with the Dark Order Jobbers taking on the Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. Still trying to maybe have Omega turn heel and be the cleaner. If he does, that's going to be his best move because he sucks right now in AEW. He's not the guy that if a new person tuned into AEW and said, oh, this Kenny Omega is the best in the world. He was number one in PWI. Let's see him. I'm excited. And they see this presentation, they would be like, why? What happened? So I hope they finally figure out how to properly use him and get him away from booking the women as well. Because the women had a finals to the tag team titles or the tag team cup, whatever. Release and Diamante beat Nightmare Sisters. Darby Allin ended up beating a jobber really quickly. Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy ended up brawling. They're having a tables match tonight. Thunder Rosa, possibly only one of the bright spots in the women's division, is coming from NWA to challenge Hikaru Shida for the title at All Out. And the final thing of the night was Brody Lee destroying Cody in no time. Yeah, it's my phone this time, not my computer. Destroying Cody in no time flat and becoming the new TNT champion. But they had Cody end up going the distance with people 20 minutes with other times. And so he didn't look like a dominant champion. And then he get dominated by a guy who was a castaway from WWE with his Misfits, the Dark Order. And I feel sorry for Super Smash Brothers, the way they've been handled there in AEW. But now Brody Lee's the champion, looking dominant. They sent Cody out on a stretcher, which had to be turned over. And get more heat. They brought out QT Marshall and Dustin that got beat down. And they beat up Arn Anderson. It looks like they're going to set up the Nightmare Family against the Dark Order. I'm not sure if we want that or what's going to happen with there. But Cody's also taking some time off to film a show, I think, called Heels with Stephen Amell, who was part of Green Arrow, I believe, that show. And they've been friends ever since WWE time when they did stuff at SummerSlam. Which leads us up to tonight, which has a gauntlet match for a number one contendership. They're actually using their ranking system. The top four people in the rankings are going to come out in that order to try and win the gauntlet match to be the number one contenders to Page and Omega at All Out. There's a contract signing tonight with Moxley and MJF, which is probably going to be a cluster again because they can't just help themselves. Matt Hardy against Sammy Guevara in a tables match. There's going to be a handicap match with Big Swole taking on Britt Baker, Rebel, and Penelope Ford. And there's supposed to be an update on Cody's condition. This is all leading to All Out Saturday, September 5th, with the Mimosa Mayhem, Jericho and Cassidy match. Omega and Page taking on the winner of the Gauntlet match. Hikaru Shida against Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's title. And Jon Moxley versus MJF for the AEW Championship. So, Chris, you've been telling me that you've been watching Dark at least and haven't gotten many other things. What are your thoughts on all that's happening in AEW right now?
I think it's a fine product. It just depends what you're expecting. A lot of the whole creation of AEW was kind of to bring a lot of the type of wrestling that you see in the independents and especially in Japan. And a lot of Japan wrestling has a lot of comedy in it. So that's why I think AEW is they're still finding what is going to be the most attractive to their public. Personally, I don't think it's going to last the way that it's going, but the product itself, I think, looks good as far as presentation on TV. And again, I like watching Dark because there's not a lot of storyline stuff going on there. It's just mainly wrestling and the commentators yapping, where I can actually fall asleep to Tony Schiavone's commentating because I actually like Tony Schiavone's commentating. He's probably like one of my favorites to listen, call a match, but he can also lull me to sleep. It's something to do with his voice, man. And I like Taz. I think Taz is a fantastic commentator. He can commentate any type of match.
Taz has been good keeping the line between being a manager for Brian Cage and I can't think of the other guy's name at the moment, and then also doing the commentating. So I can agree with that. Tony Schiavone, yeah. He's always been the cure for insomnia. I like Tony. I listen to his podcast when it's something I'm interested in listening to. But yeah, he's always been, unfortunately, that voice of lull in a way. So
I don't personally. I don't think he has a voice of lull. I think he calls the match okay, but he definitely puts feeling into it. It's not a dull listen. It's just, I don't know, there's something, his voice itself is just soothing. He's got a good announcer voice.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I enjoyed listening to him with Conrad on What Happened When with their podcast. Once again, depends on the subject. Right now, they're doing a double shot of ECW, but Tony had no connection to it, so it's just basically listening to somebody who's seeing it for the first time. It doesn't interest me this week. I'm more interested in times when Tony was there and finding out the backstory and what was going on. Same when Eric Bischoff and all them do their shows. I prefer the ones that they were actually there around for instead of discovering things for the first time, which almost is a good segue because they talk about a lot of things that happened during that time frame. Like just recently they were doing SummerSlams with Bruce and JR and doing Road Wilds and Hog Wilds with Eric Bischoff. All those things happened in the month of August. And Jonesy, it's your turn for This Week in History.
This week in pro wrestling history, we're going to start at August 21st and work our way up to today. 41 years ago, Dustin Rhodes defeated Harley Race to win the NWA Heavyweight Championship for the first time. Race would win the title back in just 5 days. 23 years ago today, WCW presented Clash of the Champions 35, and that was the final edition of the series that began way back in March of 1988. And 20 years ago today on Raw's War, Lita defeated Stephanie McMahon. It was the first time in Raw history that a women's match main evented the show, and the WWF Women's Championship did change hands, I believe. August 22nd, 21 years ago, I got that one out. Let's go to The Rock defeated Mr. Ass in a Kiss My Ass match, and this is SummerSlam 99. Mankind defeated Stone Cold in Triple H in a triple threat match to win the WWF Championship. And Jesse the Body Ventura was the special guest referee for that one.
Yeah, and that match is also interesting. If you watch it, somehow Steve Austin gets tied up in the ropes, and Triple H actually has to save him.
I do remember a match like that, so that's the one. August 23rd, 21 years ago, Raven walked out of WCW. If you remember that, that was on the same episode that the rock band Kiss did their lovely performance, and that was the debut of the Kiss Demon, which was originally played by Bryan Adams, but the gimmick was soon passed to Dale Torborg, and then it was burned to the ground. 21 years ago on Raw, Lillian Garcia made her debut for WWE. 21 years ago. 5 years ago, The Undertaker beat Brock Lesnar by submission at SummerSlam. The August 24th, 35 years ago in Philadelphia, the Dream Team, Brutus and Greg Valentine defeated the U.S. Express, Rotundo, and Wyndham to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. 30 years ago, on August 24th, New Jersey, the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, defeated the Rock and Roll Express to win the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. 26 years ago, WCW, Clash of the Champions 28. It was highlighted by the first ever singles match between Hogan and Ric Flair on broadcast television. Flair won via countout, a huge television audience for that one. And the show featured the final television match of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat until 2009. And they fired him shortly after that match where he injured himself by FedEx. Man, they love FedEx. 21 years ago, WWF presented the Experience at the C&E Stadium in Toronto. That was back in, trying to think of the year. I think that would have been 95. I believe the big event was it was 87. So it was probably 97. Anyways, they only got about a third of the amount that they did for the big event, which was 10 years prior to this. Some of the matches in that was Jose Lothario defeated Jim Cornette. Psycho Sid defeated Vader in a lumberjack match, and some CFL players from the Argonauts were at there. You can kind of see why they didn't do as well in attendance. The Undertaker defeated Mankind in a casket match, and Michaels defeated Goldust. Sorry?
A little bit of a weak card considering the big event had Hogan versus...
Other matches was Farouk defeated Aldo Montoya. I mean, it just, yeah. When you look at what the main card was for the big event back in the 80s, that's why they had 70 some odd thousand. For this, they only had about 21, which still is horrible. But yes. And then I'm looking for, we're still on August 24th. There's a lot of stuff that happened on that day. A lot of stuff. Nitro, Arn Anderson announces his retirement on that day. 18 years ago, Brock Lesnar defeated The Rock to win the undisputed belt. And he was at the time the youngest at 25. But it wouldn't take too long for Randy Orton 2 years later to beat that record. And today, on that day, would have been the 49th birthday of Mike Lockwood, who was better known as Crash Holly. And it would have been the 89th birthday for Regis Philbin on this day. And then August 26, 34 years ago today, WWF taped the first ever episode of WWF Superstars of wrestling from the Providence Civic Center in Rhode Island. There were a couple of notable bits of trivia with these tapings. Jesse Ventura returned to the booth for the first time since taking time off to film Predator. Coco Beware made his debut, and so did Mick Foley. And
That's where he got beat up by the Bulldogs.
Yes, in 21, and that was only his second ever professional match. Like, that's pretty impressive. 29 years ago at SummerSlam was the match made in hell, and no one gave a crap about that. They just wanted to see the wedding and the awesomeness that was. And I'm not sure if it's the only one, but that's got to be one of the only weddings ever in wrestling history to not be interfered with. It went off without a hitch.
Yeah, they
except later on that night. You know,
yeah, they waited till the reception to get the snake.
Yes. And then August 27th, which is today, 30 years ago today, Hogan beat Earthquake at SummerSlam. I can't believe that's 30 years ago. 26 years ago. Sorry?
I actually just watched that event the other day.
Yeah, and that's Earthquake takes a good bump on that table, and you could see where he got the welt. 26 years ago, Shane Douglas made his historic in-ring promotion, throwing down the NWA belt and declared himself the ECW World Champ. Only 2 other people knew about that was going to happen on that day. 11 years ago, Dixie Carter made her television debut on TNA Impact. And 10 years ago, Elizabeth Luna Vachon was found dead at her home in Pasco County, Florida. She was 48. I bring that up, her death, because she's actually buried at the ranch that was owned by Andre the Giant. Apparently, the families were very close. And it is a happy birthday today to Robert Remus, we all know and love as the Sarge. And that is it for this week in history.
That's a busy week, actually, in the history.
Just and a lot of. I didn't mention all of it either.
Yeah, just to imagine all the events and title changes and births, deaths. Wow, like just a rich history. And speaking of that, though, this would come in handy for the thing that you have going on, which I just put up, the Wrestling Trivia Challenge. You want to tell people about that?
Yes, the Wrestling Trivia Game Show Challenge. It's basically Jeopardy, and we just test your knowledge of not so much about getting it right, but just remembering all those things that have actually happened in wrestling. There's so much that happened in the wrestling world that wasn't just in the ring, but outside the ring. Movies, television shows, music, the way people live their lives. Wrestling is a huge part of that, and is the oldest sport around. So I like doing it. I like researching it. And I think it's fun. I think now I'm up to like over 600 questions at least that I have categorized. So I got lots of opportunity to do shows because I'm off work for at least another month. So people that want to play, you don't have to play when we announce that we're going to do them. If you want to play, say, on a Wednesday or Thursday, let me know. I'll find a Wednesday, Thursday I'm available. If you want to play your friends, challenge someone, that's it. And every Monday we'll have an episode up. I think I finally figured it out.
You have 3 episodes already out, and I think there's another one still to come.
Yes.
And then we'll
do some more after that.
Right, and we're looking for some contestants to be a part of it. So either how can they contact you, Chris?
They can contact me either through one of these pages, But if you just put in Wrestling Trilogy Challenge in your Facebook, it should pop up.
And before we sign off, there's a couple of things that I can promote. And as you see down below, Scumbags Wrestling is available on Facebook, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts from. We have our Facebook page. We have Twitch. We have YouTube for any of our videos, which include the Ontario Indie Road Trip. The production line, which I'm hoping to get back to the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory and get some more going once they start doing some in-ring action. There's also the Fantasy Warfare Tournament, and we are doing that last night. Hopefully you tuned in and saw part 3 of our greatest tag teams of all time. A little bit of a spoiler alert here, but the Rock and Roll Express have now joined the Dudley Boys and the Midnight Express to be in the Final 4, which will be decided next Wednesday, September 2nd, right after AEW Dynamite. We're going to.
Who do you think is going to win number 4?
That one's a tough one. I haven't even fully looked at it. I'm just having a hard time looking at that. Who is in that group, Chris?
We got Midnight Express versus North. We got Public Enemy versus The Bar. We have Harlem Heat versus Natural Disasters. Demolition against Edge and Christian. War Machine versus the Dark Family. The Funks versus the Dream Team. Minnesota Wrecking Crew, which is the original, versus the Colossal Connection, and the World's Greatest versus the Young Bucks. I've gone through all this and made my picks. It's the Young Bucks. Out of all those tag teams, there's only 2 that I actually 3, sorry, that I marked as 10s. Everyone else is, like, some of them are low. They haven't done a lot, or they didn't get very far as getting into the big leagues. That doesn't mean that they don't, like I said, like Young Bucks, they haven't made it to, WWE or AEW is not that big in my opinion, so they've been on the big stage in Japan but not here yet. But that doesn't mean they can't win it all, because they've done a frick ton.
Yeah, Young Bucks, just listening to that list, could be definitely making it to the finals, depending on how things shake out. But what stands out to me also is Harlem Heat, 10-time tag team champions.
Harlem Heat and Minnesota Wrecking Crew. The only problem with those 2 is they didn't travel as far as continuously like the Young Bucks have.
Yeah. So it'll all matter of how it shakes out when we look at their resumes, see what their accomplishments are. I definitely want you to join us next Wednesday at 6 p.m. to see who comes out on top of that. And then at 10 p.m., we're going to declare a winner between the 4 division winners and declare, at least in our opinion, who the greatest tag team of all time is. It's special.
It's the Nasty Boys as far as I'm concerned, but they're already gone.
Yeah. It's a special Wednesday edition of the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, happening at 10 p.m. Wednesday, because I'm going away for a weekend and will not be available Thursday night. So I hope you guys join us after AEW Dynamite. And one last plug before we go. We have our t-shirts. We have a ton of different t-shirts with different designs, including the Scumbags Wrestling logo that you see up top, the podcast logo that you see behind us, but also, most importantly, I can hold off on selling those shirts because that's a profit to me. But what is not a profit to me is the current t-shirt that we just put out earlier in the summertime, and that is our comic book style t-shirt supporting independent wrestling. Money purchased from these shirts is going to go to Sick Kids Hospital on behalf of Steven's Wrestling Journey. And put that up there. Steven's Wrestling Journey. He's a 9-year-old little guy in the GTA area. Has hearing malformation, issues back here in your brain. And there's a lot of research needing to be done to help cure it. He's part of that research. But if you buy a t-shirt that features 20 talent and stars of the Ontario independent wrestling scene, that money is going to go to Sick Kids Hospital. $30 for a t-shirt. We also have that same design as a poster, 11 by 17. You can check it out on the Facebook page, Scumbags Wrestling, and that is for $15. So all that money is not going in my pocket. It's going to Sick Kids. You don't want to miss it. Independent wrestling is starting to get back into full swing again here and there. As I said, there's a couple shows coming up. You don't want to show up with old t-shirts. Show up with a brand new one. Know that you helped out somebody. And yeah, the shirt has the pillars. It has the King of the North, Casey Spinelli, Jody Threat, and many more. Students from the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory, The Revolt, Jim Strider, Kyle Boone, Violet Lee, Shiloh, Michael Grayson, you name it, they're on there. Support independent wrestling, support Sick Kids Hospital. Get in touch with me any of the ways that you're seeing it down below. Scumbagswrestling@gmail.com. And that's all I got to say. I know I've said it a lot of times, but you got to get there. We're nearing $500 right now going to Sick Kids, and we want to push that over the edge and double it if possible. So support a good cause. And I need a drink. So until next time, thank you for joining us. Catch this podcast everywhere and have a good night.
Salut!